I have a weekly Hannibal podcast. We get super in-depth. It's so much fun. But there's one element we've spent more time trying to discern. We have no freaking clue, and that's the stag.
Okay.
Sometimes it seems like a positive, supporting force. Sometimes it seems supremely negative or oppressive. I mean, Hannibal kills Tobias with the stag. Help.
Well, the stag is really representative of Will's first exposure to Hannibal Lecter. As he saw in that field with Cassie Boyle impaled on the severed stag head, in his mind the psychology of that is essentially he's seeing the stag with the ravens picking at the corpse. Everything gets blended in his psychology and comes up with this subconscious image of the stag. And so when we got to the finale of season 2, and he shoots the stag, and then we see the stag die as he's lying there dying, and that was really representative of the relationship that Will had with Hannibal up at that point from the very beginning of that stag manifestation to shooting it and watching it die. It kind of represents their relationship at that point. So it's really symbolic of the Hannibal-Will relationship as a whole.
Then should we not expect to see the stag recur as much in season 3?
Not as much. Not as we're going to see the stag man, the Wendigo. But the stag, it feels like we're looking for what our next kind of psychological symbol is, because if that was about their relationship in season 1 and season 2 and he watched it die, it feels like it should die and be born again as something else.
The post-credit scene was similar to the finale of the Hannibal novel, when Dr. Otto elopes with Clary Starling.
Yes.
But instead of Buenos Aires, they go to Europe.
Right.
So are you going that way?
Well, I would love to be able to get the rights to the Clary Starling character and tell the story with the ending in the book, because I think there is a sex appeal to Mads Mikkelsen, and particularly if he brainwashes Clarice in a way that we kind of set up with what he did with Miriam Lass, and that would be a possibility. But we really wanted for that relationship with Bedelia and Hannibal to be one that is more unique. We didn't want to because we wanted to save that Clarice dynamic in the hopes of getting Clarice. So the dynamic between Bedelia and Hannibal is a much different one. That the first episode of season 3 is all about that in a really cool way.
You said in the panel that the next season is going to jump ahead a whole year.
Right.
Which characters do you think have had the biggest amount of growth or the biggest change in that amount of time?
All of them, really, because for us going into a season 3 where after you write 2 seasons of a character, you're like, okay, this character has to come at a different point of view because I can't sit down and write the same scene. So the exciting thing for us is that everybody is different. Everybody has changed from that night, and I'm trying to not give too much away, but the exciting thing is everybody is different, and everybody's approach to life and Hannibal is different, and I can't wait for you guys to see some of the stuff that characters that you assumed were one way are going to be completely different because they've changed.
So exciting.
We're excited.
The first season of Hannibal was incredibly like the leanest show I've ever seen. There was not a wasted moment, and nothing was given any more time than it absolutely needed to have to make the point. And the second season was a lot slower and a little more sensual. And I'm wondering, is that the direction that it's going to go in the future, or?
Well, I think every season has its own flavor. So the first season, there's I look at the first season and there's some episodes where I was like, okay, that felt like there was we could have made that leaner, but that's coming from the inside.
Seriously?
And
we were all hanging on by our fingernails trying to figure out everything that's happening.
Oh, that's good, because it's hard to tell when you're inside what's working, what's outside. But the third season, it's really about the first season being this kind of seduction and victimization of Will Graham, and then the second season was about Will Graham finding his power, and the third season is what does he do with that power when he has it in the context of what he's experienced being gutted and left for dead and seeing friends all around him dying and bleeding. So that changes him in a big way and changes the tone of the show, because we're not going to be doing the first half of the season the crime procedural, so we won't have like a murderer of the week coming in and doing this sort of death tableau. It's this hunt story between Will and Hannibal, but every episode is like a movie. So the first episode is The Talented Mr. Ripley, and the second episode is Don't Look Now, and the third episode is Death and the Maiden, and the fourth episode is Kill Bill. So there's like we're looking at it in a different way than we look at the previous two seasons, not as any kind of like strategy as much as it has to grow organically from everything that we've laid down, and if we don't have those events have impact and change people's direction and perspectives, then we're not doing our jobs kind of telling a story about people that just I gotta ask Melanie. I gotta answer Melanie's question.
So many people think is that the criminal mind was disruptive to his soul. He always seems to have this, isn't it getting any to at all?
Well, in the first season, it was very depressing. I struggled with depression quite a bit in the first season because I was writing a character who was losing his mind alone in Canada, away from the writing staff and production in like 57 months. And I felt alone and actually helped me understand it. But it was very... It's about as depressed as I've ever been in my life in the first season. And then when I got through it and sort of felt like, okay, I needed to go through that for my artistic experience to better understand this character. And the second season was so much easier because I had to go through that darkness to understand the character to then be able to get out of it. And it was very much part of the creative process, but it was very challenging the first season. I was very depressed. And the second season was better, and the third season is even more fun in a way. That's because it's more of a soap opera, and it's taking all of these characters from the books that I love and want to see. Milwaukee and Patsy and Cordell and Francis Valentine, and being able to tell a story that we haven't yet told. Like, I can't wait to get to Red Dragon, and a lot of people were saying like, why do Red Dragon? What does it mean in this new context? And for me, Red Dragon, for Will Graham, I didn't understand this until getting through the first two seasons, was Francis Dollarhide for Will Graham is a Hannibal Lecter that he might be able to say because he knows he's trying to stop. And that was sort of the beautiful thing in the book that I didn't see in any of the movies. And I feel like, oh, we can tell a really interesting story from that perspective because it hasn't been tapped into in a great way. So that's thrilling for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you all again.